Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Swob's Jobs Report. Today, we're going to be dissecting and going through the August 2024 Jobs Report.
I feel like we just did July yesterday and we're already doing August. Like, summer's over.
Time's flying. It's crazy.
Yep.
So we're going to go through kind of the key points for the 2024 August jobs report, talk about what does it mean for workers, and also what industries are growing, what sectors are growing. Maybe it's time for people to kind of look for jobs in these sectors that continue to grow month over month. So just a little breakdown of this past month's job report. So 142,000 jobs were added in August 2024, but compared to 2023, roughly 202,000 jobs per month were added. So I wonder, why is it's growing compared to July, but not growing as fast as it should be?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you look at last month's jobs report for July of 2024, the number of jobs has increased this month and unemployment rate basically stayed the same. But it's interesting because, again, if you compare it back to last year, the average was 202,000 jobs added per month and the unemployment rate stayed at around 3.8%. Whereas now, if you compare it to this year and this month, well, the jobs have gone up compared to last month and unemployment stayed virtually the same. But even though it's growing and it's growing at a slower pace, I wonder why there's such a dip compared to last year at this time. And I'm kind of curious to know, well, what industries were doing well last year at this time versus right now? Because if we're seeing things like healthcare, construction, those industries are all growing, well, that's great. But why does it seem like those are the only industries that each month seems to be consistently growing, whereas other industries are kind of falling behind? So I'm kind of curious what's happening in the labor report and what's happening where these industries are growing and yet workers are not working as often as they were last year at this time. So I'm just kind of curious to see how it all kind of connects together.
You know what? I think that's something that we have to continue to monitor, keep our eye on each month when the jobs report does come out. And even just in July of 2024, while we were talking about comparing to last month, even weather just being a factor and people not being able, with the hurricanes, people not being able to get to their roles, get to work because weather did play a factor in that. So even just seeing, I know we talked last month about it, and seeing here this month without pretty much the hurricanes and the weather gonna obviously being a bit better, people are going back to work, which is great. And we're seeing, like I said, the number continue to grow, even though it's a little bit slower.
Yeah, and it's funny, it seems like part-time has grown as well. So it looks like 4.8 million people this past month found part-time work, which is an increase compared to last month. So it seems like those kind of part-time jobs are also slowly growing. But what I found really interesting from the report this month is I think it was 20% of the labor force who's unemployed have been unemployed for more than 25 weeks. And what I find interesting about that is, what is it that these workers are looking for? Because the report is suggesting that these workers who have been unemployed for such a long period of time feel like they don't have the right jobs or right opportunities available to them, or at least what they're looking for. So my question is, other industries are growing, other sectors are growing, and yet a large chunk of the workforce, or a large chunk of people who aren't in the workforce, who are unemployed, have been unemployed for so long. So I'm curious, what are they looking for? And what sectors are, I guess, not growing that they're not able to find these jobs?
Just kind of even going back to the part-time, I'm sure too, even with summer and just seeing the last couple months, like people might want to take some time off, especially after the pandemic. We've seen that wellness has been something that people prioritize now. So maybe taking some time off and switching to more part-time versus full-time might help, because they want to enjoy time with family and friends and really take in the summer months. So I'm curious to see, and especially too with, I guess, seasonal coming up too, we'll really see, does that play a factor in the labor force?
Well, my thought was, I wonder, with now that we're in September, is it students who are maybe preparing to go back to school and we're starting to kind of get ahead and look for these part-time jobs so that they have that secured while they're in school? The baby boomers that are now getting a little bit older, maybe retired, and are looking at more part-time opportunities. I'm not sure what it is, but I found that interesting that a large chunk really are struggling, and that it's taken so long. And my question is, A, why is it taking so long? And what are the opportunities that you're looking for? Because other sectors are growing, but that to me is an interesting interesting thing. I found that kind of interesting to learn about.
So speaking about sectors that are growing, we even saw this in July's report as well. So we saw that the construction industry and the healthcare industry have been two sectors that have continued to grow month over month. And so I would even suggest, and we even mentioned this before as well, is if you are looking for a career change, why not pay attention to the sectors that are continuing to grow month over month, especially in healthcare? We see that the baby boomers, they're getting older and they're going to need more assistance. And I think there's so much opportunity there for sure.
Well, my question there is when we think about healthcare as a sector, for example, and I don't want to get too off on a tangent, but when they say healthcare, what does that mean? Does that mean more nurses, more PSWs, or is that a gym trainer? Because that can fall under healthcare too. So I guess that's my only question when we think about healthcare. So I am curious to know why it seems to consistently be growing, same as construction from last month. Why are those two industries that have done so well? I'm not sure. It is interesting.
Well, I think people are getting older, they're getting sick, and more people are coming into the country. We need more space and continuing to build and continuing to grow. So they are growing, and it's great to see that. So I would definitely say if you are looking for a change and you are struggling to find work, maybe check out the sectors that continue to grow month over month.
Yeah, and I think if we're really going to break down the August report, just kind of, really give a Coles Notes version of what the report suggests, it is showing growth.
Yes.
And I think that's positive. It's good for the economy that it's obviously growing. I think the big concern is for a lot of people is just why is it growing at a slower pace, and what does that mean for the future of work? What does that mean for future opportunities? So I think only time will really tell.
Exactly.
But I am curious to see how next month's report goes now that we're out of the summer months and we're getting into kind of toward the end of the year, which I can't believe that we're already almost hitting 2025. But I am curious to see how the next few reports look compared to the summer months, and see, do those industries continue to grow? Do they maybe take a step back? Do other industries really step up and really show significant growth or significant decreases? So only time will tell. I'm curious to see what the next report has to say.
Awesome. I totally agree. And I think, like you said, only time will tell. So with that, I want to say thank you everybody for listening to our podcast, and we'll continue to keep you posted next month on the Jobs Report podcast, brought to you by Swob.
Thanks everyone.